We're going to read that together now that we hopefully have it typed in. Okay? So, at the end of a football game, fans begin to exit the stadium. For the interval between 0 and 40, the number of fans that have exited the stadium after t minutes can be modeled by the function f of t equals 50,000 over 1 plus 535 e to the negative 0.29. And notice there was a t missing. When you typed it into your calculator, did you try using t? Don't use t, use x. Okay? So in your calculator, you have to use an x. We are supposed to be finding f prime of 8 using correct units, interpret the meaning of the value in the context of this problem. So right here, your calculator has an xy axis, not a ty axis. So you have to be smarter than the problem that's listed, and anytime you see an x or t, you're going to replace it with an x when you're in your calculator. Okay? If we were in Desmos, it would take the t. All right, but unfortunately, our test doesn't let us use Desmos. Okay, it makes us use the calculator. All right, so the very first thing we are supposed to do, it's the first sentence that's telling us instructions on what to do. What are we supposed to do? What's f prime mean? Slope, which also means derivative. So I am finding the derivative at 8. Okay, so we're reviewing what we did on the calculator yesterday. It's a good thing we did this on the calculator yesterday, huh? All right. What do I have to push to get derivative? Menu, then what? Calculus, then what? Numerical derivative at a point, or I could just hit the number 1, right? Then I have to put a value in here. What value am I going to put in? In this case, it was an 8 is what it told us to plug in, and then I hit OK. I'm keeping it on first derivative. Okay, now I need to fill in this part. What do I need to push to get my function? Var F1, what goes in the parentheses? X. And then hit enter. All right, so our value that we got is 265.590. Okay, so that would be like one of our points, 265.590. And I know it seems silly to put the 0 on the end, but that helps with our 3 decimal place accuracy, even though they would still take it with the 59. Okay, but we're in the habit of writing 3 every single time. Okay. Make sure you've got that part. Everybody got it? Did I write it down right? Because I wasn't looking at what I wrote down. Maybe. Come on. Where are you? All right. Now we need to interpret the problem. We have yet to answer the second sentence, right? We're supposed to interpret the meaning of this value in the context of the problem. So what is the problem measuring? Look back at your first sentence. Fans exiting the stadium. So that's where I'm going to start, is I'm going to write about the fans exiting the stadium. I don't know why this is being stupid. Let me try this. Okay. That one. All right, so the number of fans that have exited the stadium. The number, I totally stole that from what was on my, in my stem of my problem, of fans that have exited the stadium. Exited the stadium. Okay. And then we write the word is. Because what we did was take a derivative of the function that they gave us. That means we turned it into a rate. Okay. So I need to talk about whether that rate was an increasing rate or a decreasing rate. So which one is it in this case? Did our answer come out to be positive or negative? Positive. So what does positive mean? Increasing. So it is increasing at a rate of, and this is where our number goes that we got as our answer. 265.590. Now we have to label it. Okay. Every time we do one of these, it has to be something per something, or something per something per something, right? So what is our label going to be? What do you think? Fans I like per what? Minute. If you're confused, the time always goes second. Okay, because the time is always going to be our X values. Okay, so if you're totally confused on that part, default to putting the time second. Okay. All right, and then we still have, remember we had this thing yesterday, nut, right? We've got the nouns, right? That was our restating the problem, basically. We got our units. We're missing, what's the T stand for? Time. Okay, so we need our specific time. At time T equals, what was the time we found this at? They told us they wanted us this at 8 minutes. All right, we're going to do one more, and I'm going to let you have time to work on your review. Okay? Yeah, yay. Tomorrow, we will see if you can do some of these on your own through Pear Deck, okay? That will be what we do before our quiz tomorrow. All right. We're looking at that one, and yay, we've got a graph this time instead of a function or a table. Okay. Although I thought that maybe if I did one with like a function like this on Friday, I could not only test that you understood this, but that you understood how to put it in the calculator correctly, right? That might be a good way to kill two birds with one stone there. All right. Read through that one on your own. So just read that. I'll give you like a minute to read it. To yourself, please, not with your neighbor. Okay. This one is a little bit weird. Okay. So it looks like they give us an original function, right? It says P of T. And they say find P prime of T. Okay. So let's read it together. For the interval between 0 and 10, the rate that people are getting on an escalator. There's our words of our problem, right? That we've got to write down later. In people per second, look, there's a measurement, right? Is modeled by the function P, where T is measured in seconds. That right there gave you the Y. This right there gave you the X, right? Over the Y's over the X's. Okay. All right. We're going to use the graph of P to find P prime of 8. Using correct units, interpret the meaning of the value. So all I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to make sure I pick up this point and I figure out what that is. So it's saying we're taking the derivative. What does that mean with a graph? The slope. I need to find the slope of that graph, right? They gave me the original. It says find the derivative of that particular graph. So I'm going to go to 8, which is right here. And I'm going to, so where x equals 8, I'm going to find the slope of that graph, literally with a triangle. So what's the slope? Do we agree? There we go. It's -1/2. So if this was worth 2 points, I picked up one of the two, right? I got the value. Now I'm going to write a sentence about the value because the second sentence says using correct units, interpret the meaning. Okay? So I'm always going to start with the words of the problem. The words of the problem I'm going to steal are right here, right? I'm going to literally copy that sentence. Okay? It's great when they give you the answer, isn't it? Right there in the stem of the question. All right, so this one we're going to say the rate people are getting on an escalator, and they don't, if you misspell it, just like I just did, they don't count off for that. It's not a spelling test, okay? And then we go is. Okay. Are we increasing or decreasing this time? Why decreasing? Negative. It's the first one we've seen that was negative, right? So decreasing. This is weird. We were going to write at a rate. We're looking at a rate of a rate. So this one was actually disguised. We're actually looking at, the problem is actually a second derivative problem, not a first derivative problem. Okay. So at a rate of, now, there was a little tiny thing that was in yesterday's that we kind of glossed over. I'm going to go back and point it out. Okay, so when we were filling in these blanks up here, did you notice right here, it says we're going to find the absolute value of the derivative. So if it's negative, we're going to write it as a positive. Let me tell you why here. So we're going to write rate of 1/2. Guess where the negative is? The word decreasing was the negative word. So you don't say decreasing at negative 1/2 because you just turned it positive, right? So because that was a negative negative. So the decreasing takes care of the negative. You always put the positive number, okay? Decreasing the rate of 1/2, we got to put the label. What's our label going to be? Look at what we pointed out in the problem. People per second, right? Because this was the label on the Y, right? Or the P of T, people per second. And then the label on the T is seconds. So it's people per second, or people per second squared. If you want to write out per second, you can. I don't know why I wrote it with the slashies this time. I just did. All right. Remember, we're looking for nouns, units, time. Do we have the nouns? Do we have the units? What are we missing? Time. Okay, so at time t equals how many seconds this time? 8 seconds. I don't know why we used 8 both times, but it is what it is. Okay. Okay, so we're going to practice in our little 5 minutes a day the next couple days, making sure we've got this down. Okay. This really isn't that bad. Actually, those are kind of nice problems when we get them because we get this sentence frame down and it makes it easy for your response. Okay, easy points to pick up. All right. Today we are getting ready for a quiz that's tomorrow.